For a century, corporate leadership was defined by the discrete manager, an authoritative figure working within the confines of a rigid hierarchy. Today, that model has been replaced by the disruptive executive, a magnetic, rock star figure who claims to intuit the future of human society. This figure almost always emerges from a garage startup, a foundational myth that frames the multi-billion-dollar empire as a simple product of individual perseverance and a single brilliant idea. Steve Jobs served as the historical blueprint for this archetype. He cultivated a deliberate aesthetic of the outsider, using casual attire and rebel rhetoric to signal that he was a visionary, not a bureaucrat. French sociologist Anthony Galluzzo defines this image as a discursive product, a narrative artifact constructed through media and language to serve a specific ideological function. This myth functions by isolating success to the level of individual genius. It invites the public to view massive technological shifts as the result of a single person's indomitable willpower. By focusing on the heroic entrepreneur, the narrative de-emphasizes the material conditions, public resources, and collective labor that allow these technologies to exist in the first place. To see how this narrative is constructed in real time, we can examine a primary artifact, a detailed 2013 profile of Elon Musk from the magazine Chinese Entrepreneur. At this stage in his career, Musk was being solidified as the next great discursive product. Using Galluzzo's framework, we can look at the text not as a biography, but as a blueprint for myth-making. In 2013, the global economy was defined by a specific tension. Traditional manufacturing was struggling, while Silicon Valley was being heralded as the only viable path forward for industrial growth. Detroit, the symbol of the American industrial past, had just become the largest U.S. city to file for bankruptcy. This failure of the old guard provided the necessary contrast for the rise of the new tech savior. Applying an analytical filter to this 2013 profile allows us to isolate the specific rhetorical techniques used to distance Musk from the failing industrial past. Peeling back this Iron Man narrative reveals the operational and financial complexities that the text attempts to synthesize into a story of personal triumph. The first pillar of Galluzzo's theory requires the entrepreneur to project the image of an outsider who actively mocks the conventions of the business world. The 2013 profile aligns him with specific ideological traits: self-made, a Spartan ascetic, and an industry outsider. The text emphasizes his presence on the factory floor, wearing a simple fleece, working from a standard desk rather than an executive suite. Rhetorically, Musk distances himself from the role of a corporate manager. He insists his time is dedicated to engineering and design, positioning himself as a technical pioneer rather than a financier. By invoking inventors like Edison and Tesla, he claims historical legitimacy, anchoring his persona in the myth of the sole inventor in a private lab. He describes his leadership as a commander at the front lines, characterizing a massive hierarchy as a small unit following a single leader into battle. Framing success as a result of Spartan work ethics validates a specific economic outcome. If the results stem from individual perfectionism, the resulting concentration of capital appears to be a natural meritocratic result. The second pillar of the myth is the silencing of collective effort. For the founder to appear as a visionary, the contributions of thousands of other specialists must be minimized. Between 2007 and 2008, Tesla faced a severe liquidity crisis. Roadster production costs had spiraled from $110,000 to $140,000 per unit, meaning the company lost money on every car. The turning point for the company's survival was a $50 million investment and engineering contract from Daimler. While the myth credits Musk's willpower, the material salvation of the company was the result of work led by CTO J.B. Straubel and a team of dedicated engineers. They executed a 5-week logistical sprint, sourcing a smart car in Mexico and retrofitting it with a Tesla battery pack to prove their technical viability. This collective engineering feat was the actual mechanism that prevented bankruptcy, securing the capital that allowed the company to continue. To maintain the hero narrative, the profile prioritizes the visionary's resolve, while the technical achievements of teams like Straubel's remain in the background. The third pillar of the myth is the invisibilization of state support. The entrepreneur is framed as a disruptor who succeeds in spite of the government, not because of it. The release of the Model S was presented as a triumph of private sector innovation, a free market product that would render traditional, state-backed manufacturing obsolete. In early 2013, Tesla announced its first quarterly profit. The focus was on a $15 million net profit, cited as proof the automotive business was finally self-sustaining. But the automotive business operated at a loss. That $15 million profit came entirely from selling zero-emission credits, regulatory assets created by the state, to other automakers. This was built on top of a $465 million low-interest loan from the U.S. Department of Energy, which provided the foundational capital necessary to develop the Model S in the first place. The disruptor did not survive through the free market alone. The company was sustained by massive federal intervention and a regulatory environment subsidizing electric vehicles. The myth of the garage startup also ignores the deep complexities of a globalized supply chain and the bureaucratic friction of international law. SolarCity's operations, described in the profile, ground the abstract idea of clean energy in physical labor and international trade. Manufacturing capacity of China to produce low-cost solar panels, linking the visionary American company to the macroeconomic policies of a foreign state. Expansion into the Chinese market also revealed the messy reality of global trademarks. A local businessman had already secured the Tesla name, leading to a $30 million legal standoff. Resolving this required months of corporate diplomacy, with vice presidents taking back-to-back meetings in Beijing to navigate a foreign legal system. Building a global empire requires deep entanglement with geopolitics and international bureaucracy, realities that contradict the image of a frictionless, independent startup. The entrepreneur myth is maintained through a highly coordinated public relations effort. It is a strategic tool used to secure the confidence of investors and the public. Musk leveraged Hollywood to blur the line between his business ventures and science fiction, using cameos and high-profile celebrity associations to build a persona that felt larger than life. Orchestrated demonstrations, like the 90-second battery swap, are designed to project a sense of technical magic. These events create an aura of inevitability that can drive stock prices regardless of the underlying production data. The Iron Man persona is a functional asset. It allows the company to trade on the perceived genius of its founder, distracting the market from the more mundane realities of manufacturing and state dependency. The new god of Silicon Valley is a structural requirement of modern capitalism, a figure who embodies the fantasy of absolute individual agency. This diagram shows the founder myth acting as a mask, obscuring the actual mechanics of the industry. When we remove the mask, a foundation becomes visible, a network of collective engineering, massive state subsidies, and global supply chains. This myth represents a liberal ideal, the person who fabricates their own destiny, seemingly independent of the history and society that actually support them. This narrative provides the escape velocity needed to lift the entrepreneur above the collective efforts and public funds that fueled their ascent. To understand the future of technology, we must look past the psychology of individual founders and begin analyzing the collective and material architectures that actually build these empires.